My name is Claire Whitaker. I was 39 when the call came at 2:38 in the morning on a Wednesday in late October. The night aide at my father's rehabilitation center was on the line. She said, "Your father is asking for you. Your sister told us you were in Colorado." I had been sitting beside my father's bed 12 hours earlier, peeling an orange into a paper towel because he could still smell citrus even when he could not swallow much. I had not been to Colorado in 6 years. I did not own a suitcase big enough for Colorado. I lived 17 minutes from the rehabilitation center if the lights on Meridian Avenue cooperated, and 23 if they did not. What I found on my father's bedside tray 41 minutes later is the reason I am telling you this story at all. I will not describe it yet. I want you to see it the way I saw it, in the order I saw it, because the order is the only reason I understood what my sister had done before she finished doing it. Before I take you back, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is for you. I read everyone. Now let me take you back to the week my sister came home, the 6 weeks that followed, and the room where my father, who could barely speak, still managed to tell the truth louder than the rest of us. The drive from my apartment to West Haven Rehabilitation took 17 minutes if I left after 8 p.m., and 23 if I left before. I had measured it. By then, I measured everything. The center sat behind a pharmacy, a dentist's office, and a vacant furniture store with a sun-bleached banner in the window that had said final week for almost a year. The lobby smelled like waxed floors and reheated soup. There was a ceramic bowl of peppermints on the reception desk, and the peppermints were always soft because the heating vent blew directly over them. I took one every night and put it in my pocket. I never ate them. I found them later in coat linings, purse corners, the cup holder of my car. Little white and red fossils from the weeks I was waiting for my father to either come back to us or leave us. My father was Raymond Whitaker. He had run Whitaker Hardware on Ash Street for 38 years before the big box store arrived and gave people 12 aisles of options, and nobody who knew which screw fit a 1963 storm door. He knew every pipe fitting by touch. He could cut glass to size without measuring twice. He could tell whether a hinge would squeak by holding it near his ear and moving it once. He had a stroke on a Sunday morning while making coffee. Not the kind that takes a person immediately. The kind that leaves them half present and half somewhere you cannot follow. His left side was weak. His speech came in pieces. His right hand still worked. His mind, according to the neurologist, was variable but intact. I learned to hate that phrase. Variable but intact meant nobody would make a clear decision. Variable but intact meant he could answer questions when the room was quiet, but not when someone stood over him with papers and a pen. My mother had died 11 years earlier. It had been the three of us since then. My father, my older sister Marissa, and me. Marissa was 43. She lived 2 states away, in a glass condominium near a river, with a husband named Grant who used words like leverage and liquidity even when talking about birthday dinners. She called twice a month. She sent expensive pears at Christmas. She missed most things and apologized beautifully. I had stayed. I did not stay because I was noble. I stayed because I liked my town and my father was there, and after my divorce I had not had the energy to reinvent myself somewhere warmer. I worked as a claims analyst for a regional insurance company. I knew what signatures looked like after stress. I knew what desperation did to paperwork. I knew, or thought I knew, that people tell you who they are in the small forms before they show you in the big ones. The first 3 weeks after the stroke were a blur of plastic bracelets, medication schedules, insurance calls, and physical therapy appointments. Dad moved from the hospital to West Haven on a Friday afternoon. His room was 214, second floor, East Wing. The window faced the vacant furniture store. At night, the sign in that window glowed weakly. Final week in red letters, as if the entire strip mall had been dying slowly and refusing to admit it. I came every evening. I brought clean t-shirts, his electric razor, the newspaper, and once, foolishly, a crossword puzzle book. He looked at the crossword, then looked at me, then tapped the page with his working hand until I understood. His reading came and went. His annoyance did not. The night staff knew my car. The receptionist knew my purse. The physical therapist knew I left notes on yellow sticky pads because Dad trusted sticky pads more than printed forms. The aide who covered nights, Penny Alvarez, knew I took my shoes off when I sat in the recliner because my feet hurt after work. She kept an extra blanket in the bottom drawer for me and pretended it was for patients. I had been there 24 nights and 26 days when Marissa came home. She arrived on a Monday afternoon wearing a camel coat and sunglasses too large for the weather. She texted me from the parking lot. Here, that was the whole message. I was at work. I had used almost all of my leave in the first 2 weeks and was trying to ration the rest like water. I called her. She did not pick up. I texted back. Room 214. He naps after therapy. Be gentle. She sent a thumbs up emoji. I stared at it for a full minute. My sister had been home 6 minutes, and already I knew I would remember that thumbs up. When I arrived that evening, Penny was at the second-floor desk with a clipboard in front of her and a pen behind her ear. She was 28, maybe 30, with tired eyes and a steady voice. She looked up when I stepped out of the elevator. "You're late," she said. 11 minutes. Meridian was backed up. "Your sister is in there." "How is he?" "Awake. Tired. Watching her perform." Penny said it without smiling. I did not understand yet that Penny saw more than she said because her job required silence and memory in equal amounts. Room 214 was dim except for the lamp by the window. Dad liked the lamp better than the overhead light. He said the overhead made everyone look like they were waiting for bad news. Marissa sat in the visitor chair with her legs crossed, one boot angled toward the door. She had a leather folder on her lap. Dad was propped up in bed. His right hand rested on the blanket. His fingers moved when he saw me. "There she is," I said. His mouth worked. "Bear." That was what he called me when I was small because I had cried when he tried to replace my stuffed bear after the original lost one eye. Claire Bear. Later, just Bear. He had not called me that in years. I felt it hit the back of my throat like a swallowed stone. Marissa smiled. "He's been asking about the house." "Has he?" Dad looked from her to me. His eyes were clearer than they had been the week before. "We're just talking through some practical things," she said. "Bills, accounts, maintenance. Grant thinks we should get everything organized." "Grant isn't here." "He will be." She said it as if that answered something. I set the newspaper on the tray table. Dad tapped it once. I folded it to the local section and placed it near his right hand. He touched the headline, then tapped twice. That meant later. We had started building a language out of taps, blinks, and impatience. Marissa closed the leather folder. "I told Dad I'd help with paperwork," she said. "You have enough on you." "What paperwork?" "Insurance, property taxes, medical authorizations. The boring stuff." The phrase boring stuff is where some betrayals begin. Nobody calls something boring unless they want you not to look at it. But I was tired. I had been tired long enough that tired felt like weather. I said, "Okay," because I wanted to sit with my father and hear him breathe and not have a hallway conversation about documents under fluorescent lights. Marissa kissed Dad on the forehead before she left. He closed his eyes while she did it. Not in peace. In endurance. I did not know the difference until later. The first strange thing happened 3 nights after Marissa arrived. I came in after work and found a white envelope tucked under Dad's water pitcher. It had my name on it in block letters. Claire. Not my father's handwriting. Not Marissa's either, though I would learn later that my sister had more than one version of herself on paper. Inside was a printed schedule. Recommended family visitation rotation. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Marissa Whitaker or authorized representative. Tuesday, Thursday, Claire Whitaker. Saturday, flexible. Sunday, rest day. No visitors unless medically necessary. I read it twice. Dad watched me from the bed. His right hand moved in a small circle against the blanket. No, no, no. "Did you see this?" I asked. He blinked once. "Yes." "Did you agree to this?" His hand made the circle again, Faster. No. I folded the paper and put it back in the envelope. I did not throw it away. I have never thrown away a document in anger. Anger is where evidence goes to die. Penny came in 10 minutes later with evening medications. I held up the schedule. Do you know anything about this? She looked at it, then looked at Dad. Your sister gave a copy to the day desk, said the family agreed he was getting overstimulated. Did his doctor agree? Not in the chart. Did Dad agree? Penny glanced toward the door. Then she said, Mr. Whitaker has been very clear that he wants you here. Dad tapped the blanket once, hard. I folded the envelope into my purse. The second strange thing happened the next Monday. I arrived at 8:12 p.m. and the receptionist downstairs, a college student named Evan, hesitated before buzzing me in. Everything okay? I asked. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at me. I thought you were out of state. What? Your sister said you had to go back to Colorado for work. She said visits would be limited for a while. There are moments when the body understands betrayal before the mind drafts a sentence. My fingertips went cold first, then my jaw, then the back of my neck. I live off Briar Court, I said. I've been here almost every night since admission. Evan's face changed. He was young enough to look truly horrified when he realized he had been used. I'm sorry, she told the morning desk. I thought, it's not your fault. Buzz me in. He did. Upstairs, Penny was not on yet. The day nurse, Elise, was finishing notes. When she saw me, she did the same pause Evan had done. Claire, you're back. I never left. She set her pen down. I think I need to see whatever note says I did. Elise looked toward room 214. She lowered her voice. Your sister told case management you were temporarily unavailable and that she would be primary family contact. She said there had been tension and that your visits sometimes agitated him. Do I agitate him? Elise's face tightened. No. Does the chart say I do? No. Then I want a copy of the visitor log. I can't give you the facility log without authorization. Then document that I asked. She nodded slowly. That I can do. I went into Dad's room. He was asleep, or pretending to be. The lamp was on. The vacant furniture store glowed final week through the blinds. The leather folder was on the windowsill. Marissa's leather folder. I did not touch it. That is important. I want you to hear that clearly. I did not open my sister's folder. I did not go through her things. I looked at it for 3 seconds, long enough to know that the silver clasp was open and that the top page inside was not medical. The top page was a deed. I saw only the heading, Quitclaim Deed. Then I stepped back, put both hands in my coat pockets, and sat beside my father's bed until he woke. When his eyes opened, I said, Dad, did you sign something about the house? His mouth moved. No. It came out soft but whole. It was the first complete word he had given me in 4 days. Did Marissa ask you to sign something? His hand moved. Tap, tap, tap. Yes. Did you know what it was? No. Do you want me to handle it? He stared at me. His eyes filled. His right hand reached for mine and missed twice before I caught it. Bear, he said. Then, very slowly, box. What box? He closed his eyes in frustration. His fingers moved as if turning a key. Toolbox? No. Safe deposit box? No. He tapped the tray table, then the drawer, then his chest. I opened the tray drawer. There were tissues, a lip balm, 2 wrapped peppermints, and the small spiral notebook I had brought him the first week so he could practice writing words with his right hand. He tapped the notebook. I opened it. The first pages were exercises from speech therapy. Names, dates, lines of uneven handwriting. Raymond Whitaker, Ash Street, Claire, Marissa. Then, 3 pages in, the handwriting changed. It was still shaky, but not practice anymore. It was record keeping. Monday. Marissa brought papers, said taxes. I did not read. Claire came at night. Tuesday. Claire brought chili. Good smell. Could not eat. M said Colorado. Lie. Wednesday. Grant came. Smelled like car. Asked about house. Said sell before winter. I said no. Thursday. Claire, newspaper. Good. Friday. M angry. Said Claire wants control. Not true. I sat down very carefully. The room seemed to move away from me by inches. My father had kept records his whole life. Inventory lists, repair tickets, ledger books. A notebook beside the register where he wrote who owed him money and who needed to be forgiven because their furnace had broken in January. He had once written down the serial number of every key in the hardware store because he said memory was for people, and paper was for facts. The stroke had taken a lot from him. It had not taken that. I looked up. He watched me. You want me to keep the safe? Tap. Yes. Not here? Tap. Yes. I put the notebook in my purse under the visitation schedule. Then I took out a blank sticky pad and wrote in large letters, "Notebook with Claire. Safe." He read it slowly. Then he closed his eyes. That night, I made 3 copies. 1 scan, 1 photocopy at the all-night print shop near the highway, where the clerk did not ask why a woman in a work blouse was copying a spiral notebook at 11:40 p.m. with tears on her face. 1 photograph of every page on my phone. Then I put the original in the small fire safe under my bed, behind my passport and my divorce papers. Backup. Always backup. I work in claims. I have been a backup person my whole adult life. The next morning, I called my Aunt Ruth. Ruth was my mother's older sister. 71, retired librarian, and the only person in our family who could make silence feel like a cross-examination. She lived 40 minutes away in a white house with blue shutters and a porch swing she never sat on because she said porch swings were for people who wanted to be seen thinking. She answered on the second ring. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said. "About Marissa?" "About the house." I sat down at my kitchen table. "What do you know?" "Your sister called me last week asking whether your mother had ever signed a separate letter about the Ash Street house." "Why would Mom have done that?" "She wouldn't." "What did Marissa say?" "That your father wanted to simplify the estate. That you were overwhelmed. That she and Grant were prepared to buy out your share at a family discount." The refrigerator hummed. I looked at the magnets on the door. 1 from Whitaker Hardware. 1 from the dentist. 1 shaped like a lemon from a trip my mother and I took before she got sick. "A family discount," I said. "That's what she called it." "Did she mention Colorado?" "She said you were considering relocating." I laughed once. It sounded wrong in my kitchen. "Claire," Ruth said, and her voice changed. "Your mother made me promise something before she died." I closed my eyes. "What?" "She said if anything ever happened to Ray, I was to remind both girls that the house was not to be sold while he was living. She said it in that way she had, like she was asking me to pass the salt but actually laying down scripture." "Did she write it down?" "No. Your mother trusted people too much. That was her only foolishness." "Dad wrote things down." "Then keep what he wrote. And call a lawyer before you call your sister." "Do you know one?" "I know 2. You need the one who scares bankers. His name is Samuel Price. His office is above the old post office. He wears brown suits and wins because he reads footnotes." "What kind of lawyer?" "Elder law, estates, property. The kind you need when family begins using words like simple." She gave me his number. Then she said, "Claire, listen to me. Do not accuse your sister by phone. Do not text her anything with adjectives, nouns and dates only. Adjectives are where lawyers make soup." "You sound like Mom." "Good, somebody should." Samuel Price's office was on the second floor of a brick building that had once been the post office and still smelled faintly of dust, brass, and glue. His waiting room had 2 chairs, 1 plant, and a framed photograph of the town courthouse in 1912. No magazines, no bowl of candy, no attempt to make panic comfortable. He was 68, with a narrow face, wire glasses, and a brown suit that looked exactly as Ruth had promised. He did not shake my hand until after he had read the notebook copies. I liked him for that. He read every page without comment. Then he read the visitation schedule. Then he wrote 3 words on a yellow pad: capacity, influence, transfer. Miss Whitaker, he said, does your father currently own the Ash Street property outright? Yes, no mortgage. Approximate value? Maybe 480,000 now. More if the commercial zoning change goes through. He looked up. What zoning change? The city is considering extending mixed-use zoning along Ash. Dad's old hardware store and the house behind it are included in the proposal. Who knows that? People who read city notices. Grant, probably Marissa. Samuel Price leaned back. Ah. It was a small sound. It carried the weight of a filing cabinet. Is there a power of attorney? He asked. Dad signed one years ago. It names me and Marissa jointly. Either can act only if the other is notified. Mom insisted. Do you have a copy? In Dad's home office, I think. Get it today. Do not go alone if your sister is at the house. Do not argue. Photograph every file drawer before you touch it. If documents are missing, the absence becomes information. What about the deed? Have you seen it? Only the heading. In her folder. Good. You didn't touch it. Keep saying that because it matters. We will search the county recorder. If a quitclaim deed has been filed, we move immediately. If it has not, we warn the recorder and prepare an injunction. Can she take the house? People can take many things for a short time. Keeping them is harder. Dad is alive. That is the most important fact in the room. While he is alive, this is not inheritance. This is control. I wrote that down. Inheritance is what people fight over after a death. Control is what they take before one. If you've ever learned the difference the hard way, leave the word control in the comments. I read everyone. Now back to my father's house. I went to Ash Street that afternoon with Aunt Ruth. She wore a navy coat and carried a tote bag full of library books because she said nobody questions a woman carrying library books. Dad's house sat behind the old hardware store, connected by a narrow breezeway he had built himself in 1987. The store had been closed for 5 years, but the sign still hung above the door. Whittaker Hardware. White letters on green metal. The paint was peeling around the W. Marissa's rental SUV was in the driveway. Ruth looked at it. Do we leave? I asked. No, she said. We become nouns and dates. The front door was unlocked. That was wrong. Dad had locked that door even when he was taking the trash to the curb. Inside, the house smelled like cedar, coffee, and old cotton. The hallway table had been cleared. My mother's blue vase was gone. Marissa came out of the kitchen wearing jeans, a cashmere sweater, and an expression I had seen on her face before school plays when she thought someone else's child had more lines. Claire, Aunt Ruth. What a surprise. We're here for Dad's power of attorney documents, I said. Why? His attorney asked for them. Her eyes moved. Not much. Just enough. His attorney? Samuel Price. Aunt Ruth made a small approving sound like a book closing. Marissa smiled. I don't think we need to involve lawyers yet. We already did. Claire, this is exactly what I'm worried about. You're exhausted. You're reacting to things. The documents, Marissa. Dad asked me to gather them. Then you know where they are. She looked at Aunt Ruth. Are you here to supervise? Yes, Ruth said. Just yes. It landed beautifully. We went to Dad's home office. The desk drawers had been opened. Not ransacked. That would have been honest. This was curated disorder. Folders moved just enough to confuse memory. Labels turned backward. A stack of old tax returns placed on top of the cabinet as if paperwork had simply risen to the surface. I photographed every drawer before touching anything. Marissa watched me. That's dramatic. It's dated. What does that mean? It means my phone knows when I took it. The power of attorney was not in the top drawer where Dad had always kept legal papers. It was not in the file marked legal. It was not in the accordion folder with the insurance policies. Ruth found it in the bottom drawer of the metal file cabinet inside a folder labeled Appliance Warranties. She held it up. "Your father has never owned a dishwasher," she said. Marissa's mouth tightened. I took the document, photographed every page, and put it in a folder. It named both daughters. Joint notification required for real estate, financial transfers over $5,000, medical placement changes, and sale of business assets. My mother's handwriting appeared in the margin beside one paragraph. Both girls. No shortcuts. I stared at the note for a long time. Marissa said, "Mom wrote on everything." Ruth said, "Especially the important things." The blue vase was in a cardboard box by the back door. So were framed photos from the hallway, the good silver, 2 quilts, and my father's collection of brass key tags from the store. "What's this?" I asked. "I was making space," Marissa said. "For what?" "Hospital equipment, eventually. Or sale prep. We need to be realistic." "He is in rehab. He had a stroke. He is alive." She stepped closer. "Alive doesn't mean he can live here again." Ruth picked up the blue vase, held it with both hands, and placed it back on the hallway table. "Then let the medical team say that," she said, "not a real estate agent." I did not know yet that a real estate agent had already been through the house. I learned that the next day. Samuel Price called me at 9:06 in the morning. "Miss Whitaker, are you sitting down?" "I can be." B. I sat in an empty conference room at work. The room smelled like dry erase markers and stale coffee. "A quitclaim deed was recorded yesterday at 4:17 p.m., he said. "It transfers the Ash Street property from Raymond Whitaker to Ash Meridian Holdings, LLC. What is Ash Meridian Holdings? A limited liability company formed 6 days ago. Registered agent, Grant Ellison. Marissa's husband. The conference room went very quiet. On the other side of the glass, my team moved around with files and coffee mugs. It seemed impossible that people were still making copies and checking calendars while my father's house was being stolen in complete sentences. Is Dad's signature on it? Yes. The deed is notarized. 2 witnesses. Consideration listed as $1. $1. That is common on family transfers. It is also convenient for thieves. Can we stop it? We can file an emergency petition to void the deed, freeze further transfer, and require production of the original. I want a temporary restraining order before close of business. What do you need from me? Your father's notebook, the power of attorney, proof of your visits, any texts from your sister, and Miss Whitaker, do not go to the property alone. If they have title, even defective title, they may try to provoke you into something useful to them. Useful how? A police report, a claim of trespass, a narrative that you are unstable. I thought about Marissa telling Westhaven I was in Colorado. I thought about the visitation schedule. I thought about the blue vase in the box. She already started that. Then we will answer with paper. Paper was Samuel Price's religion. I was beginning to convert. That afternoon, Penny called me from Westhaven on her break. "I shouldn't call you from my phone," she said. "Then don't say anything that risks your job. Your sister is here with a man in a suit. Not Grant, another man. They asked your father to sign a facility transfer consent." "Transfer where?" "Brookside Memory Care." I stood up so fast my chair hit the conference table. "He doesn't have dementia." "I know. Did he sign?" "No, he got upset. Your sister said your visits were causing regression." The man kept calling him Raymond in that loud, slow voice people use when they think age is a language barrier. "Where are they now?" "In the social worker's office." "Where is Dad?" "With me. I told them he needed a rest period." "Penny. I documented it." "Those 3 words are why I still send Penny a holiday card." "I documented it. I drove to Westhaven in 14 minutes. I do not recommend that. I am not proud of that. Fear is a bad driver and worse at red lights." The social worker's office was on the first floor beside the vending machines. Marissa stood inside with a man in a navy suit and a woman I recognized from admissions. When she saw me through the glass, she closed the folder in her hands. I opened the door. "What is Brookside Memory Care?" The admissions woman looked at Marissa. Marissa said, "A safer placement." "For whom?" "For Dad. Dad is in stroke rehab. His neurologist has not diagnosed dementia." The man in the suit smiled at me. He had the kind of smile people use when they know they are about to say policy. "Families often disagree during transitions," he said. "Who are you?" "Daniel Keene, placement coordinator." "Who hired you?" "I was asked to consult." "By whom?" He looked at Marissa. "By the family." "I am the family." Marissa closed her eyes briefly. "Claire, not here." "Yes, here. Dad has a joint power of attorney. You cannot change his placement without notifying me. You cannot transfer him to memory care because you want him away from people who know he can answer questions." The room changed after that. I felt it. The admissions woman looked down at the folder. The placement coordinator's smile went thin. Marissa said, "You're making this ugly. You recorded a deed to Dad's house for $1 yesterday. Ugly arrived before I did." She froze. For half a second, my sister was 10 years old again, caught with my mother's lipstick melted in her pocket and already deciding whether tears or outrage would save her faster. "I don't know what you think you saw," she said. "County records." Dad wanted the property protected. "From whom?" "From you." There it was. The word she had been walking toward for weeks. The admissions woman stood. "I'm going to pause this meeting until legal documentation is clarified." The placement coordinator gathered his papers. Marissa turned to him. "Daniel, I agree with pausing," he said, and left so quickly his suit jacket caught on the chair. Marissa and I stood in the office with the sound of the vending machine humming behind us. "You're going to regret this," she said. "Maybe, but I'll regret it in the right house." That night, Dad was exhausted. His face was gray. His speech had gone to fragments. House?" he said. "I know. No cell. I know. Box. I have the notebook." He shook his head. "Not that." "What box?" He moved his working hand, 2 fingers bending like he was opening something small. "Cash box?" "No." "Register box? From the store?" His eyes sharpened. "Tap. Yes." Whitaker Hardware had an old green metal cash box in the storage room, the kind with a removable tray and a dent near the lock. Dad had used it for odd things after the store closed. Spare keys, old receipts, buttons, the kind of objects men keep because they once belonged to a system. "You want me to get it?" Tap. "Yes." "From the store?" Tap. "Yes." "Tonight?" He closed his eyes. One tear slid sideways into his hair. Tap. "Yes." I called Aunt Ruth from the parking lot. She answered with, "I'll bring a flashlight." She did not ask why. That is love after 70. We met at Ash Street at 10:30 p.m. The house was dark. Marissa's SUV was gone. The hardware store key was still on my ring because Dad had given it to me after the store closed and said, "You never know when a person needs a plunger after business hours." The front of the store smelled like dust, wood shavings, and metal. The aisles were mostly empty, but Dad had left the old bins along the back wall. Screws, washers, hinges, drawer pulls, labels in his handwriting. Brass 1/2, zinc 3/4, cabinet latch, storm hook. Ruth held the flashlight while I unlocked the storage room. The cash box was on the second shelf behind a stack of paint trays. It was heavier than I expected. The key was taped underneath because Dad believed thieves never looked where honest people put things. Inside were envelopes. Not money. Paper. One envelope said, "Store leases." One said, "Tax map." One said, "Mary." My mother's name. I opened that one last. Inside was a handwritten letter in my mother's clear script, dated 8 months before she died. "Ray, if you are reading this, I have become either sentimental or correct. Maybe both. Do not let the girls sell the house while you are living. Do not let Grant talk numbers over your dinner table. Claire will worry about being fair. Marissa will worry about being first. Neither of those worries should decide where you sleep. The house is yours until you leave it by choice or by God. After that, let the law do what the law does. But while you are breathing, make them remember. Love is not a closing document. Mary Ruth read it once. Then she sat on a paint bucket and cried without sound. I had not cried yet. I would later. That night, I took photographs of the letter, put it back in the envelope, and carried the cash box out of the hardware store against my chest like an infant. The next morning, Samuel Price read the letter and said, "This is not legally controlling." I know. But it is useful. How? Because it explains the family pattern without making your father do all the explaining. Courts like facts. Judges are still human. A good letter helps them understand why facts matter. He filed the emergency petition at 11:43 a.m. By 3:15 p.m., a temporary order froze the Ash Street property. No sale, no transfer, no mortgage, no removal of fixtures, records, or personal property. By 4 p.m., Marissa knew. At 4:07 p.m., she called me. I did not answer. At 4:09, she called again. I did not answer. At 4:12, Grant called. I did not answer. At 4:20, Marissa texted, "You have no idea what you're doing. I forwarded it to Samuel Price." At 4:28, Grant texted, "Your father wanted this handled privately. You're humiliating him. I forwarded that too." At 5:02, Marissa left a voicemail. I played it once with Ruth sitting beside me. "Claire, this has gone far enough. Dad is confused and you're exploiting that because you never had a life outside that house. Grant and I have invested time and money into a plan that protects everyone. You don't understand the tax consequences. You don't understand the exposure. You never understand anything until someone explains it to you 3 times. Call me back before I have to tell people what really happened with Mom's jewelry." Ruth looked at me. "Mom's jewelry?" I said. Ruth closed her eyes. She wouldn't. "What?" "Your mother's garnet bracelet disappeared after the funeral. Marissa told me privately that she thought you took it. I told her she was being cruel." I laughed again. That same wrong laugh. I didn't even know it was missing. "It wasn't missing," Ruth said. "I saw it on Marissa at Easter the next year. She said you had given it to her because it made you sad. The betrayal you see coming hurts one way. The betrayal that has been living quietly behind you for years hurts another. It has furniture. It has curtains. It has been cooking meals in your house while you thought you were alone. If you have ever found out the first lie was not the first lie, leave the word years in the comments. Just that word. I will understand." Samuel Price listened to the voicemail the next morning. "Good," he said. "Good? She threatened a false allegation while a property dispute is pending. Judges dislike that. I dislike that. You are allowed. I am translating your dislike into exhibits." He added the voicemail to the file. The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. 3 weeks is not long on a calendar. It is long beside a hospital bed. During those 3 weeks, Marissa shifted strategies the way weather shifts before hail. First, she tried charm. She sent soup to West Haven under both our names. Penny documented that Dad refused it after Marissa told him I had ordered low sodium because I thought he was too weak for real food. Then she tried absence. She stayed away for 4 days and told case management I had created an unsafe emotional environment. Then she tried bureaucracy. She requested a capacity evaluation from a private physician Grant knew, but West Haven's medical director declined to accept it without a court order. Dr. Evelyn Sato was West Haven's medical director. She was small, exact, and terrifying in a calm voice. She wore her hair in a gray braid and carried a tablet she used like a shield. I met her on a Thursday morning after Marissa filed a complaint asking that my visits be supervised. Dr. Sato called us both into a conference room. Marissa came with Grant. I came with Samuel Price on speakerphone and Aunt Ruth in person. Ruth brought library books again. I never asked whether she read them. Dr. Sato sat at the head of the table. Mr. Whitaker is my patient, she said. Not a property, not a theory, not a family memory. My patient. I will make medical decisions based on the chart and on my examinations. I will not make them based on whichever daughter uses more adjectives. Samuel Price made a sound through the phone that might have been approval. Dr. Sato continued. Mr. Whitaker demonstrates fluctuating expressive aphasia. His comprehension is significantly stronger than his speech. He is capable of indicating preferences when given time, quiet, and appropriate communication support. He has repeatedly indicated that he wants Claire Whitaker present. He has not indicated distress caused by her visits. He has indicated distress during document discussions. Therefore, no legal, financial, or placement documents are to be presented to him at this facility without prior notice to both named agents and approval from his attending physician. Marissa's face flushed. Are you accusing me of something? I am documenting a boundary, Dr. Sato said. Grant leaned forward. With respect, doctor, families have rights. Dr. Sato looked at him. Patients have more. I wrote that down too. Patients have more. Dad had a rally the following Saturday. Not a miracle. I had learned not to call anything a miracle unless it stayed. But for 3 hours, he was more himself than he had been since the stroke. He sat in the wheelchair by the window with a blanket over his lap, looking at the weak red glow of the final week sign across the parking lot. I brought the cash box. Mary, he said when he saw the envelope. Yes. His right hand shook when he touched the paper. I did not let him hold it too long. His eyes moved across my mother's writing. He cried without making a sound. She knew, I said. He nodded. Did Marissa know about the letter? He breathed carefully. No. Did Grant know about the zoning change? Tap. Yes. Did they ask you to transfer the house because of it? He closed his eyes. Tap. Yes. Did you understand the deed when you signed it? His eyes opened. He looked directly at me. No deed, he said. You didn't know it was a deed. Tax, he said. Said tax. Who said tax? He swallowed. Risa. It was what he had called her when we were little. Risa. I had not heard him say it in 20 years. Hearing it then hurt more than Marissa's full name would have. Did Grant bring the notary? His hand moved uncertainly. Woman. Car. A woman came in a car? Tap. Yes. Not at an office? No. At the house? No, he struggled, his mouth twisted with effort. Then he said, Lot. Parking lot? Tap. Yes. They had you sign in a parking lot? He closed his eyes. Yes. I stepped into the hallway and called Samuel Price. He answered on the first ring. Parking lot, I said. Which one? Dad can't say yet. Ask without leading when he rests. Did anyone else hear? No? Then write down exactly what he said immediately. Date it, time it. Do not improve grammar. Do not fill gaps. I wrote, Saturday, 3:14 p.m. Dad read Mom's letter. I asked whether he understood deed. He said, no deed. I asked what he was told. He said, tax. I asked who said tax. He said, Rissa. He said, woman, car. He said, lot. I asked parking lot. He tapped yes. I signed it. Penny witnessed my signature at 3:22 p.m. She wrote her own notes separately. Penny always wrote her own notes separately. She did not trust family paper. She trusted chart paper. 2 days later, Samuel found the notary. Her name was Linda Pruitt. Her commission was active. That was the bad news. The good news was that she was careless in a way that left footprints. Linda Pruitt was a mobile notary who advertised same-day signings for real estate transfers, auto titles, and emergency documents. She kept a notary journal as state law required. Samuel subpoenaed it. The entry for Dad's deed listed the location as North Lake Coffee Parking Lot, 6:40 p.m., 2 weeks after his stroke. Identification presented expired driver's license. Signer condition, alert. Witnesses: M. Whitaker, G. Ellison. Marissa and Grant had acted as witnesses on a deed transferring my father's property to Grant's LLC. Samuel read the entry out loud to me over the phone. "Is that allowed?" I asked. "It is a conflict big enough to be useful. Whether it is fatal depends on other facts, but useful is not a small word." Dad was at West Haven at 6:40 p.m. that day. Silence. "Say that again." "He had physical therapy at 5:30. I visited at 7:10. He was in room 214. He was never at North Lake Coffee." Samuel's voice changed. "Can you prove it?" I could. West Haven had medication administration records, therapy logs, door badge logs, visitor logs. Penny had been on shift. The transport van had no record of taking him anywhere. Dad had not left the facility that evening. The deed said he signed in a coffee shop parking lot while he was in a rehabilitation bed 17 minutes away. That is the moment the case changed from a fight into a collapse waiting for a witness. Samuel subpoenaed North Lake Coffee's exterior camera footage. The footage had overwritten after 14 days. Marissa had timed that well, but she had not timed everything. North Lake Coffee shared a parking lot with a bank. The bank retained footage for 90 days. The bank camera did not show my father. It showed Marissa's SUV. It showed Grant getting out with a folder. It showed a woman matching Linda Pruitt's description walking from a gray sedan to Marissa's passenger window. It showed signatures happening against the hood of the SUV. It did not show a wheelchair. It did not show my father. It did not show any man with a stroke-weakened left side struggling to hold a pen. It showed my sister signing something while Grant stood beside her. Samuel watched the footage twice, then called me. "Miss Whitaker, your sister did not just take advantage of your father. She may have signed for him." I sat on the edge of Dad's recliner in my apartment. A peppermint from West Haven fell out of my coat pocket and rolled under the coffee table. "Will she go to jail?" Samuel was quiet for a moment. "That is not our case. Our case is to stop the transfer, protect your father, and preserve his choices. Criminal referrals are separate. Courts punish less often than people think. They prevent more often than people appreciate." "I want both." "I know. Decide later. File now." The day before the hearing, Marissa came to West Haven alone. Penny called me at work. "She's here," she said. "With papers?" "With flowers." "That's worse." Penny did not laugh. "Dr. Sato told her she can visit, but no documents. I'm keeping the door open." I left work and drove over. When I reached room 214, Marissa was sitting beside Dad's bed holding a bouquet of yellow roses. Dad hated roses. He said they were flowers with lawyers. She looked up when I came in. "I came to see my father." "Then see him." Dad's eyes were closed. His jaw was tight. Marissa stood. "Can we talk in the hall?" "No." "Claire?" "No." She lowered her voice. "You don't know what Grant is dealing with." I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because there is a point in some betrayals where the betrayer asks you to consider the pressure they were under while betraying you. Grant stole Dad's house on paper. Grant is trying to save us from a tax disaster. By transferring the property to his LLC for $1? It was temporary. Then transfer it back. She looked at the floor. It's not that simple. It never is after theft. Her eyes filled then. Real tears, I think. That was the cruelest part. My sister could cry sincerely for herself. "We were underwater," she said. "The condo, Grant's business, bridge loans. We were going to fix it. The zoning change would have made the property worth 3 times what it is now. We could have developed it, paid Dad's care, paid you out, paid everyone. Dad said no. Dad doesn't understand what the property is worth." From the bed, my father's right hand moved. Tap, once, hard. Marissa turned. His eyes were open. "Mine," he said. She took one step toward him. "Dad, mine." The second time was louder. Penny appeared in the doorway. She did not enter. She did not need to. Marissa put the flowers on the windowsill. You always chose her, she said to him. Dad's face changed. Not anger, not guilt, something older and sadder. No, he said. Marissa laughed through tears. You did. You chose the one who stayed because she had nowhere else to go. I felt that land. She had aimed it at me, but it passed through me and hit the wall behind us. A year earlier, maybe it would have stayed. But grief had burned too much space clean. Dad looked at her for a long time. Then he lifted his hand, the working one, and pointed to the door. Marissa stared at him. Are you serious? His hand shook, but it did not drop. Penny stepped in. Ms. Whitaker, I think your father is asking for rest. Marissa left the roses. After she was gone, Dad looked exhausted. I moved to throw the roses away, but he tapped the bed rail. No. You want them to stay? He shook his head. Then he pointed to the trash. I smiled for the first time in days. You want me to throw them away where you can see? Tap. Yes, I threw them away. He watched every stem go in. The hearing took place in a small courtroom on the second floor of the county courthouse. Not probate exactly, not criminal, not family. Equity court, Samuel called it. The place where judges decide what to stop before everybody spends years pretending not to know what happened. Judge Miriam Colfax sat at the bench. She was in her early 60s with silver hair cut short and reading glasses on a chain. She had the kind of stillness that made paper seem loud. Marissa came with Grant and an attorney named Paul Redding, who wore a charcoal suit and the expression of a man who had been told one version of the facts and met another in the hallway. I wore a green cardigan Dad had bought me from the department store after my divorce. He had said it made me look like Spring had filed a complaint. I had no idea what that meant. I wore it anyway. Samuel carried 2 folders, one brown, one blue. Why 2? I whispered. One is the case, he said. One is what they don't know we know. Marissa's attorney opened by saying the transfer had been part of a legitimate family asset protection plan. He said Raymond Whitaker had capacity. He said Claire Whitaker was a devoted daughter but emotionally reactive. He said family conflict should not be confused with fraud. He said fraud as if it were my word. Samuel stood. He did not object often. He did not perform outrage. He let Marissa's attorney build a neat little table, then removed one leg at a time. Exhibit A, Raymond Whitaker's durable power of attorney, requiring notice to both daughters for real estate transfers. Exhibit B, no notice to Claire Whitaker. Exhibit C, the recorded quitclaim deed transferring Ash Street to Ash Meridian Holdings, LLC for $1. Exhibit D, state business registration showing Ash Meridian Holdings, LLC formed 6 days before the transfer, registered to Grant Ellison. Exhibit E, West Haven medical and therapy logs showing Raymond Whitaker was inside the facility. At the time, the Notary Journal claimed he signed in the North Lake coffee parking lot. Marissa's attorney looked at his papers. Grant leaned toward him. The attorney lifted one hand slightly. Not now. Exhibit F, Linda Pruitt's Notary Journal entry. Exhibit G, bank parking lot footage showing Marissa Whitaker, Grant Ellison, and Linda Pruitt conducting a signing at the hood of Marissa's SUV with no Raymond Whitaker present. The courtroom went completely still. Samuel did not look at Marissa. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, we do not ask the court today to determine criminal liability. We ask the court to recognize that the deed cannot stand. The grantor was not present at the purported signing location. The required co-agent notice was not given. The transferee entity was controlled by the grantor's son-in-law. The witnesses to the deed were the transfer's beneficiaries. The patient's own contemporaneous notebook, corroborated by facility records, reflects repeated statements that he did not wish to sell or transfer the house and believed he was being asked to sign tax papers. He paused. This is not messy family disagreement. This is paperwork arranged around a vulnerable man until his own will disappeared from the page. Judge Colfax looked at Marissa's attorney. Mr. Redding? Mr. Redding stood. He adjusted his jacket. He did not look at Grant. Your Honor, I was not aware of the parking lot footage until this morning. I will need a recess to confer with my clients. 15 minutes, Judge Colfax said. In the hallway, Samuel drank water from a metal bottle. Aunt Ruth sat on a bench with her library books. I stood by the window and looked down at the courthouse steps. Marissa and Grant argued near the stairwell. Not loudly. Worse than loudly. Carefully. Grant's face had gone pale in patches. Marissa kept shaking her head. Mr. Redding stood apart from them, reading something on his phone with the grim focus of a man searching his calendar for a way out. Aunt Ruth patted the bench beside her. I sat. Do you hate her? She asked. I thought about it. Not cleanly. Good answer. Clean hate makes people stupid. What does messy hate make people? Tired, but sometimes accurate. Court reconvened. Mr. Redding stood. Your Honor, my clients are prepared to consent to an order voiding the deed without admission of wrongdoing. Samuel stood immediately. The petitioner requests findings on the record. The patient is alive, vulnerable, and still subject to family pressure. A private unwinding without findings leaves him exposed to the next document. Judge Colfax looked at Marissa, then at Grant, then at the deed. I agree, she said. She read her findings slowly. The court found that the deed was void. The court found that the transfer violated the durable power of attorney's notice provisions. The court found that Raymond Whitaker was not present at the location recorded by the notary at the stated time. The court found that the transferee entity was controlled by Grant Ellison and that Marissa Whitaker and Grant Ellison had acted under a conflict of interest. The court ordered the county recorder to strike the deed. The court froze any further attempted transfer of the Ash Street property. The court suspended Marissa's authority under the power of attorney pending further review. The court appointed Claire Whitaker temporary sole agent for medical coordination and property preservation, with monthly reporting to Samuel Price and the court. Then Judge Colfax looked over her glasses. This court does not decide family love. It does not repair trust. It does not punish every cruelty that appears in the margins of a legal dispute. It does, however, stop documents from doing what people had no right to make them do. The house is returned to Raymond Whitaker. His stated wish not to transfer or sell it during his lifetime is to be honored unless a future court finds otherwise. She struck the order with her pen. Adjourned. Marissa did not look at me. Grant did. For 1 second. I saw in his face not remorse, not fear exactly, but annoyance that consequences had arrived in public. Samuel closed the blue folder. You won what you needed, he said. I nodded. You did not win what you wanted. I know. Go to your father. I drove to West Haven without music. Penny was at the desk when I got there. Dr. Sato stood beside her. Neither asked. They already knew. News travels in healthcare through channels nobody admits exist. Penny said, He's awake. Dad was by the window in his wheelchair. The red final week sign glowed across the parking lot, though it was only late afternoon. I sat beside him. The deed is gone, I said. He looked at me. House? Yours. He closed his eyes. His mouth moved once. I leaned closer. Mary, he said. Yes, I said. Mom, too. His hand rested on the blanket. I placed my hand over it. For a while, we watched the sign in the vacant furniture store flicker. A week later, Dad came home. Not permanently at first. Not easily. There were rails in the bathroom, a rented hospital bed in the dining room, a ramp over the front steps, and a schedule taped to the refrigerator that looked like it belonged to an airport. Physical therapy twice a week. Speech therapy 3 times. Nurse visits Monday and Thursday. Medications in a plastic organizer with morning and evening compartments. He slept in the room where my parents had eaten dinner for 30 years. The chandelier hung above his bed. He thought that was funny. He pointed to it the first night and said, Fancy. You're a chandelier person now, I said. He smiled. It came unevenly, but it came. Marissa did not visit for 11 days. Then she sent a letter through her attorney requesting supervised access to Dad and proposing mediation. Samuel advised a written response. Dad dictated it one word at a time over 3 afternoons. No papers, no Grant, 1 hour, Claire present, no house talk. Samuel typed it. Dad signed it slowly. His signature looked like a fence after a storm, but it was his. Marissa came the following Sunday. She wore no jewelry. That was the first thing I noticed. No watch, no wedding ring, no earrings. She looked smaller without decoration, but not softer. Dad sat in his recliner by the front window. I sat at the kitchen table with a book I did not read. Samuel had said I did not need to record the visit unless something happened. Aunt Ruth had said something always happens. I put my phone face down on the table, recording audio. For 20 minutes, they talked about weather, therapy, the neighbor's dog, and whether the pharmacy on Ash still carried the cough drops Dad liked. Then Marissa started to cry. Dad, she said, I need you to understand I was scared. Dad looked at her. Money, he said. She wiped her face. Yes, money, but not just money. I was scared everything was going to fall apart. Grant said, Dad lifted his hand. Stop. She stopped. You, he said. Not Grant. You. Marissa stared at him. Then she nodded once, like accepting a sentence. Me, she said. He looked tired after that. She left at 42 minutes, not the full hour. At the door, she turned to me. Are you happy? I thought of all the things I could say. That happiness had not been in the room for months. That she still thought loss was a competition. That our father could not hold a fork without effort, and she was asking about my mood. Instead, I said, no. She looked surprised. Good. Let one true thing surprise her. Winter came early that year. Dad made progress in inches and lost ground in weather. He learned to say my name clearly again. He learned to stand with a cane for 20 seconds. He learned to hate oatmeal with renewed fluency. He did not learn to forgive Marissa, though sometimes I think he wanted to. Wanting is not the same as having the strength. In December, Grant filed for bankruptcy. Samuel told me because the bankruptcy schedules listed Ash Meridian Holdings, LLC, and referenced the voided deed as a disputed asset. He said it with no satisfaction. This is why he needed the property, he said. They were beyond underwater. They were under the lake bed. Does that change anything? Only your understanding, not the order. Marissa moved into an apartment near the river after that. She sent Dad a Christmas card. I read it aloud because he asked me to. Dad, I hope you are getting stronger. I am sorry for the pain this year caused. I was trying to protect the family and made mistakes. I hope someday you will let me explain. Love? Marissa Dad listened. Then he pointed to the drawer beside his chair. I put the card inside. Keep? I asked. He shook his head. Not yet, he said. That was the most honest sentence in the house. He died the following May on a Tuesday morning in his own dining room under the chandelier he had decided was funny. It was not dramatic. It was not cinematic. The hospice nurse had come the week before, and we all understood what the change meant even before she said comfort care. His body grew quieter by the day. The house grew quieter with him. Aunt Ruth was there. Penny came too, off shift, because she said she wanted to see him in the house he fought for. Dr. Sato sent a note written on a prescription pad. Samuel Price came by the afternoon before and stood awkwardly in the kitchen until Dad noticed him. House, Dad said. Safe, Samuel said. Dad nodded. The last night, I sat beside him and read from the old hardware store ledger. Not because it was profound, because the names calmed him. Larson, 2 storm hooks, paid cash. Miller, furnace filter, owes $8, forgive if needed. Nolan, glass pane, cut to 18 by 22. Dad's breathing slowed. The chandelier made small circles of light on the ceiling. At 4:12 a.m., he opened his eyes. Bear, he said. I'm here. Mary. I know. No cell. No cell while you were living, I promise. He looked toward the hallway, toward the front of the house, toward the old store beyond it. Then his eyes settled on me. Good, he said. He died at 4:19. I did not call Marissa first. I called hospice. Then Aunt Ruth, though she was asleep in the guest room and answered from 10 feet away. Then I called Samuel because Dad had asked me to. Then at 6:03, I called Marissa. She answered with, "Is he gone?" Yes. She made a sound. Small. Real. For a moment, I thought grief might make us sisters again. Not close. Not repaired. Just sisters standing on the same shore. Then she said, "What happens to the house now?" I closed my eyes. There are doors that lock themselves. "The estate handles it," I said. "Claire? Samuel will contact you." I hung up before she could make the morning smaller. The funeral was held at the Methodist church, even though Dad had not attended in 9 years. He said church pews were built by people who thought suffering improved posture. Still, the church had known him. People came from everywhere. Old customers, former employees, the mail carrier, the woman who had run the bakery next door before it became a vape shop. Evan from West Haven came, awkward in a borrowed tie. Penny sat with the nurses. Dr. Sato stood at the back and left before anyone could thank her. Marissa came alone. No Grant. She wore black and our mother's garnet bracelet. I saw it when she signed the guest book. The bracelet flashed dark red under the church lobby lights. For a second, I was 28 again, standing in my mother's bedroom after the funeral, not knowing what I had failed to notice disappearing. Aunt Ruth saw it too. Her hand found my elbow. "Not here," she said. I know. Marissa's signature slanted perfectly across the guest book line. Big M long tail on the final A. Beautiful handwriting. She had always had beautiful handwriting. That had made the forgery worse somehow. She had chosen to imitate our father's weakened hand badly, not because she lacked skill, but because she lacked respect. After the service, we gathered at the house. I had not wanted people there, but Ruth said houses that survive a betrayal should be filled quickly with witnesses. So I made coffee. Someone brought ham biscuits. Someone brought lemon bars. The old hardware store door was propped open, and people wandered through telling stories about keys Dad had cut, storms he had prepared them for, the time he delivered a toilet flapper on Christmas Eve and refused payment because Santa doesn't invoice. Marissa stood in the hallway looking at the family photographs. The blue vase was on the table where Ruth had put it back months earlier. She touched it. "I was going to keep this safe," she said. "It was safe where it was." She dropped her hand. "You think everything I did was greed? Wasn't it?" She looked at me then. Really looked. "Some of it was panic." I believed her. That did not help. "Panic doesn't forge a deed," I said. "No," she said. "It signs one." It was the closest she ever came to confession. The estate took 8 months. Dad's will was simple and old. Everything split equally between his daughters after debts, expenses, and a few small gifts. The Ash Street property was to be sold only after both daughters agreed, or failing agreement, by court-supervised sale. Marissa wanted to sell immediately. I did not. Not because I wanted to live there. I didn't. Not because I wanted to punish her. Punishment was too expensive to keep warm. I did not want to sell because Dad had asked not to sell while he was living, and after he died, I needed time to learn the difference between honoring a wish and living inside it like a locked room. Samuel advised patience. Ruth advised spite, then corrected herself and advised patience with better shoes. I kept the house through summer. On Wednesdays, I went there after work. I watered the hydrangeas. I sorted hardware bins. I found old receipts and keys without labels and a coffee can full of screws Dad had apparently believed would one day reveal their purpose. In the back of the store, taped under the counter, I found a note in his handwriting from years before the stroke. "Claire knows where the shutoff is." That was all. I laughed for the first time in the store. In August, the city approved the zoning change. The property value doubled in 3 weeks. Marissa's attorney sent a letter demanding immediate sale. Samuel wrote back with one paragraph and 3 citations. The sale happened in November under court supervision. A local developer bought the property and, because Ruth shamed him at a public meeting with a speech about civic memory, agreed to preserve the green Whittaker hardware sign inside the new building's lobby. Marissa and I each received more money than either of us expected. She received hers. I received mine. That is the law. The law is not poetry. It does not know who sat beside the bed, who carried the cash box, who threw away the roses where a tired man could see. It divides according to paper. Sometimes that is cruelty. Sometimes that is mercy. Often it is just what remains after everyone stops shouting. On the day my distribution cleared, Samuel called me. "Miss Whittaker," he said, "this is the part where clients sometimes get creative." Creative how? Civil suits, bar complaints, criminal pressure, attempts to retrieve emotional justice through expensive procedure. Are you telling me not to? I am telling you what your father already knew. A house can be saved. Years cannot. I looked at the ledger on my kitchen table. Dad's old store ledger. I had opened it to a page from 1998. Claire, purple bike tire. No charge because she cried. Dad had written that. Charged his own daughter nothing for a bicycle tire because she cried. Paper is patient, but sometimes it is also ridiculous. I won't sue her, I said. Good. But I'm doing something with part of the money. That is usually better. I used $25,000 to start a tool library at the community center. Not a scholarship. Not a plaque on a wall nobody reads. A tool library. People can borrow drills, ladders, saws, pipe wrenches, stud finders, sewing machines, garden tools, things Dad would have known how to fix and teach. The sign says Raymond Whittaker Community Tool Room. Underneath, in smaller letters, it says, "Return what you borrow, repair what you can." Penny came to the opening. So did Dr. Sato. Evan came and brought his mother. Aunt Ruth stood by the door, correcting the sign-in sheet so people wrote legibly. Samuel came for 12 minutes, shook my hand, and left before the speeches. Marissa did not come. She sent a card 3 months later in a white envelope. No return address. I knew her handwriting. Beautiful M Longtail on the final A. Inside was a check for $5,000 made out to the tool library. No note. I held it for a long time. Then I mailed it back. Not because the library could not use it. The library could always use it. But some money arrived still attached to the hand that took it. I did not want her donation in a room built from what our father had refused to lose. I have not spoken to my sister in 2 years. People ask whether that is sad. Of course it is sad. A boundary can be correct and still have weather. I do not feel triumphant. I do not feel pure. I feel like someone who found a gas leak, turned the valve, opened the windows, and then decided not to sleep in that room anymore. Some family betrayals do not end with screaming. Some end with folders on a shelf. A notebook, a mother's letter, a court order, a Christmas card unopened in a drawer, a name you no longer say unless paperwork requires it. If this story stayed with you, leave one word in the comments. Just one. The word for what you think my father protected. I read every one. There is one more piece I haven't told you yet. It came 2 years later on a Wednesday in late October when I drove back to the building that used to be West Haven. West Haven closed after a merger. The patients moved to a newer facility on the north side, all glass and polished stone and chairs nobody sinks into. The old building sat empty for 6 months before the community college bought it for a nursing program. Penny called me when the announcement came out. "They're doing a dedication wall," she said. "Former patients, staff stories, that kind of thing. I thought you might want to come by before they remodel the second floor." I went on a Wednesday because some dates become shapes, and late October still had the shape of a phone lighting up at 2:38 a.m. The lobby smelled different. No soup, no wax. The peppermint bowl was gone. The reception desk had been pushed against the wall. Someone had peeled the West Haven letters off the glass doors, but their shadows remained. Penny met me on the second floor. She was a nursing instructor now. She wore a badge with her full name, Penelope Alvarez, RN. I had never known her full first name until then. Some people arrive in your life already named by their kindness. Room 214 was empty. No bed. No recliner. No lamp. The window still faced the vacant furniture store, except the furniture store was not vacant anymore. The building had been renovated. In the lobby, visible through the glass, the old green Whittaker hardware sign hung on a brick wall. I stood there longer than I meant to. Penny stood beside me and said nothing. She had always known when silence was the only useful tool. After a while, she handed me a folded paper. "I found this in my old locker when we moved," she said. "I should have given it to you then. I think maybe I wasn't ready." It was a photocopy of one of Dad's notebook pages. The last page, the one I had not noticed because it had been stuck to the cardboard back. His handwriting was large, shaky, determined. Claire came. Claire listened. House stayed. Under that, in smaller writing, one more line. "Tell Bear enough." I read it twice. Then a third time. Penny looked out the window. "He asked me to copy it," she said. "The night after the hearing, you'd gone home. He kept tapping the notebook. I thought he wanted water. He got so mad at me. Finally, I understood. He wanted the page copied. He made me promise to keep it until I knew you needed it." "How would you know?" Penny smiled. "Nurses know when people keep carrying things after they're allowed to put them down." I folded the paper carefully. Outside, the old hardware sign glowed under new lights. Inside, room 214 was empty enough to hold everything. I drove home by Ash Street. I did not stop. The new building looked good. I can admit that. Brick, glass, warm lobby, Dad's sign on the wall like a stubborn sentence. The tool library was closed for the night, but through the front window I could see the pegboard wall and the labels Ruth had made in her librarian handwriting. Drills, levels, clamps, pipe wrenches. Return what you borrow. Repair what you can. The traffic light at Meridian turned yellow before I reached it. I slowed down. I did not rush it. There was nowhere I needed to arrive before the truth anymore. At home, I put Penny's photocopy in the green metal cash box with my mother's letter, Dad's notebook, the voided deed, and the court order. The box sits on the second shelf of my bookcase, between the old hardware ledger and a copy of Charlotte's Web that had belonged to my mother when she was 9. I do not open the box often. I know what is inside. That is enough. If this story made you feel something, anger, grief, relief, or even that quiet ache that comes when you recognize a truth from your own life, then it did what I hoped it would. Because sometimes betrayal does not arrive shouting. Sometimes it arrives with a folder, a signature line, a familiar voice saying, "I'm only trying to help." And sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is not fight louder, but keep the paper, keep the promise, and stand exactly where someone vulnerable asked them to stand. So now I have a question for you. If there was one thing in your life you would protect at any cost, a home, a parent, a memory, a promise, or even the version of yourself that refused to look away, what would it be? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. And if this story stayed with you, share it with someone who knows what it feels like to be called dramatic for telling the truth. Someone who had to become strong because nobody else was willing to be honest. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you here for the next one. Check the description for more stories like this. And remember this: not every family story ends with forgiveness. Some end with a locked box on a shelf, a name you no longer answer to, and the peace of knowing you protected what mattered when it mattered most.